a long time, a lot of the heroines were young in paranormal. Do you think we'll start seeing older heroines and ones that...
Oh, I think so. I hope so. I hope that they're a very diverse batch now. I'm thinking that, in fact, one writer whose name completely escapes me now, has written 2 wonderful books, and her protagonist has artificial legs. And I thought, and she's just had a weird life, and I thought, that is so fascinating that she handles it with such dignity and realism. I just love those books. And if the name pops to the top of my head before this is over, I'll just blurt it out. Michelle. Her name is Mishell Williams. Hey, 50%. That's pretty good.
I've noticed my characters get older as I get older. One of my first characters was a very inexperienced young woman who had been fired, and she wasn't married, and she was just very young, starting off in life. And as I've gotten older, so have my characters. My single mom character, is my age, and she's dealing with issues with her child, and being a vampire and trying to raise a human child is very difficult, and trying to raise my own children is very difficult just because they're my children. And I think that as we experience life and we go on, I think that that's what we put into our characters, and I think that just makes them richer and more interesting.
Baker. I'm sorry, I gotta say it when it pops to the top. Sorry.
Also, we're sitting in Baker right now.
Oh, are we?
Yes, that's the room.
I hope that's right. I'm sorry. Oh, that's okay.
I was really rooting for you.
Okay, Williams or Baker.
I know I would love to see like a series that's a group of like vampire slaying grandmothers, because I would read the crap out of that.
Yeah. Well, you've got Robin Peterman.
Yeah, Robin has the
Porno
grannies.
Granny.
She does. Robin Peterman?
Yeah.
Okay, Darynda, I have a question for you. This is going to sound kind of creepy. But I read that you do something called the skeleton key.
Yes.
What is that? Because when I Googled it, I got a movie.
Oh, you know what? That's what I call it. I just
Okay.
think of it as a skeleton key, literally a skeleton of the book. So basically what I do is I actually have three outlines. And so I have, my first one is actually like a synopsis. So that's what I send to my editor, and I send it to her for approval. And it's just a synopsis, kind of, she calls it outline, but to me it's like a synopsis, and it's usually 5 to 10 pages, something like that. Then I do my detail outline. So I take that, and then I break it all down, and I do my map, and it's just what time of day it is, where are we, what's going on, just here. Then I do my skeleton key. So my skeleton key is I take all of that, and it's one line, like per scene. So one line. Charlie goes to the diner and finds a dead body, whatever. That's what it is. And that's usually the entire book in usually about a page and a half to 2 pages. The whole thing. And I just need that to kind of know where I'm going. Otherwise, like you couldn't pay me to be a pantser because I am so far off in left field. It's not even the same book. I'm in a whole other universe. So I have to rein myself in, stick to the story, keep it moving, and also, it keeps the story moving forward. It keeps things going quickly and stuff. I have this horrible fear, and I figured out over the years, I've actually figured out that this was from my mother. Thanks, Mom. But in a way, she did help. So when I've written since I was 5 years old. I've always wanted to be a writer. So I would write stuff and give it to my mom, and I'd write stuff. And her main comment on almost everything was a little boring, And you think that's horrible, but it's actually, I'm scared to death to bore my readers. I don't want to be boring. So God forbid, I will not give you details about anything. You're floating in space. You don't know where you're going to be. No, I'm just kidding. I described some things, but yeah, I just have this fear of being boring. So I have to keep moving forward and just keep the story fresh and fresh twists and just as much as I can and without confusing. So my goal is to just put it all in there, but not confuse the reader. So, with my 7 different plots that are going on.
I know, as well, but they're good.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
For Molly, who or what inspired my absolute favorite of all of your characters, Dick Cheney?
So, for those who don't read me, there is a secondary character in the Nice Girls series who is named Dick Cheney, and he was Dick Cheney way before the Dick Cheney that we all know, and he will be Dick Cheney long after. And he is just the opposite of kind of what you would expect, the dark, sexy vampire with the long, leather coat, living in the loft apartment. He lives in a trailer, he wears jeans, he has funny t-shirts, and he's sort of the clinger on MASH, the guy who could get you anything. If you need contraband jeans, he's your guy. And I don't know where he came from. I just needed a character that always had that lightning comment, that could make things a little better just by making you just looking like, what's wrong with you? The one who makes the inappropriate joke at the funeral, which is me.
It's no.
And my sister will not sit next to me at funerals because that is how I cope with grief. But yeah, he was just kind of an amalgam of all those things that you kind of need just to break the tension. And he's one of my favorite characters to write anyway. And you can tell because he gets all the best lines. And my editor's like, you do realize he's not the hero. He's your secondary character. Treat him as such. So I'm a little bit of I show favoritism to Dick Cheney. Not that one.
People in the face.
I don't know. I probably have an FBI file somewhere as a result of that character choice.
All the way in the back.
Paranormal gives you the ability to create characters that are so far from realism. Are there any types of stories or characters that you've written that you went, okay, this is too much?
No.
No.
No, I think you have to anchor your paranormal characters in reality, and that gives the reader something to identify with, and yet they have all this fabulous area of strangeness that I think we all want, either one way or another. But I think anchoring them in reality to where you can identify with them and then go on this other journey with them has been what I do anyway. It's worked for me.
One of the things I loved about Buffy the Vampire Slayer, it was this woman who had superpowers, but she was dealing with very everyday problems. Like, towards the end it was paying bills and helping to raise her sister and all that, and just the kind of absurdity involved in there. She was working at a fast food place, I think, towards the end of the series. And my character, Jane, she is, a young woman, and she's single, and she's living in a small southern town where she's always lived, and her mama keeps trying to force feed her pot pie because she thinks that will, help keep her from being a vampire anymore, and things like that. So, she's got bills to pay, she's got a dog to feed, things like that. So I think that really helps characters relate. My own mother is actually a very nice woman, and she's sitting over there. I think parent issues are kind of very normal in the paranormal series. So, yeah.
And one of the things that I get letters all the time saying that, oh, Charlie could be my best friend. And that's such a fantastic thing to say, because that means that she's real to you. If you're really thinking, oh, this character could be my best friend, then that means that I've done my job, and I've made her real and accessible and somebody that everybody would want to know and hang out with, and so that's always a plus.
Darynda?
Yes, I was wondering if you guys have anything in the works right now that maybe you could share for any upcoming books, maybe with that you've already pitched or.
You're my favorite person.
So if you could share the character's name, because you guys were the first ones where someone asked me what I like to read. I'm not saying, I like to read Charlaine Harris. I'm saying Sookie Stackhouse. I'm saying the character. Because that's what I think.
Absolutely. Again, the best friend thing.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm writing a completely new series with a new publisher, with Simon & Schuster. It's so far the title of the first book is Texoma. It's about an alternate America, and the character is a very young woman who is a professional gunslinger. And her name is Lisbeth Rose. not Elizabeth, but Lisbeth. Lisbeth Rose, and I'm just having the best time.
When will that be out?
Next year, when I finish it. It'll be out sometime next year. I've got to turn it in August. And my editor keeps saying, you know, it doesn't really have to be on my desk. And I said, don't tell me. Say, I have to have it by August or your dog chow. Because I have to have the
I do too.
I have to have the
I have
incentive.
to.
I thought I have to finish it by then. Don't tell me I can finish it whenever. Or I'll take whenever.
You'll be at midnight before whenever,
Yes,
like, one more
yes.
minute.
One more minute. I can finish it.
I have news, but I can't share it yet. Just follow me on social media, and you will hear stuff. I promise.
How far along
Uh,
is your news? How long do we have to wait for your news?
Maybe a little while. I'm not sure. I'm afraid people are going to drop from the ceiling to silence me.
Wow, that would be exciting.
I know.
Yeah.
Great.
Are you spinning off Charlie?
That's, yes. So I'm, probably. We haven't really decided yet. So 13 will be the last Charlie. I'm probably going to do the spin-off. I've sold a book in this contract, but we don't know what it's going to be. I'm working on actually another young adult series for my agent.
Oh.
So, and it's set in an alternate reality, 1930s during the Dust Bowl and the Depression, and it's completely different reality. Something happened that changed it all. And so my agent wants that, and I don't know. I have this other thing that I'm obsessed with a hellhound, so we'll see. I don't know.
Those are the best, though. When you get obsessed about a
I
project,
know,
Yeah.
I know, I just love
you
it.
just have to sit down and work.
Yeah.
It annoys your family, but
Yes.
it's great for you.
Yes, it does.
To kind of bring it back to plotting and camping, when you plot or you finish that first book and you know it's going to be a series or you plan on it being a series, how far ahead do you think of those character arcs to get to the end? Or does that make any sense? Because you also mentioned like that
Yeah.
best friend. How do you know that? I guess is the second question. How do you know if that secondary character in book one might become like the hero or heroine in another one?
Well, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. No.
No. for the Charlie books, I mean, I think that I'm like these two. Like when we come up with an idea, we think in series. You know, I really do. And so, I'm not just thinking about the first book. I'm thinking about the whole arc. You know, basically with Charlie, she went way longer than I originally thought she ever would. I didn't think she'd ever sell. I didn't know. And so, I basically had kind of the beginning and then what her arc was going to be, and then I had what I wanted to happen at the very end. And that's actually coming to fruition. So in 13, this thing that I wanted to happen is going to happen, so that's cool. But the world itself just kept growing and growing and growing and changing, and things that you didn't see coming in book one, you know, it has to evolve, you know, as you go along. So, yeah, I don't know that answered anything that you asked, but
Well, it's because I every time I read a series, we're all readers first, and I'm always just like both amazed and jealous after like I get to I'm like, how did they think of that? And that
I know that feeling all too well. All too well.
I'm curious as to how do you get to that point, like at the beginning? Do you know that that's where you want to lead some of your characters from the very beginning?
I've written two types of series. With the Nice Girls books, I knew that Jane was a very incomplete and she hadn't matured yet, and so I knew there were things she had to accomplish over the course of the 4 books to grow up, and so that's how I approached it. What trials does she have to face? What lessons does she have to learn to become a grown up, basically? And then with the werewolf books, I started off with one set of characters, and then in the next book it was a totally different set of characters. It was the sister of the main character in the first book, and then I knew that I wanted to add those characters as I wrote to make sure they were interesting enough to have their own books. And then the third book, I just kind of pulled them out at random and said, surprise! I mean, the main thing is just to give your characters a cast of friends and acquaintances that are interesting enough that they could hold their own.
And oftentimes readers will let you know. They'll be like, oh, when is so-and-so going to get his own book? And you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I hadn't thought of that.
Or
Yeah.
so-and-so is really hot, and I'm going, he had 2 lines. How do you get hot from that?
They were
But
good
okay, I'll
lines.
go with it.
Well, and I know I'm not anywhere near their level, but I also write erotic romance under the name Anya Summers, and I know anytime I go, like I just sold a 9-book series to them, so I had to go and have the entire 9 books plotted enough so that they could go and say, yeah, we'll take it.
Oh, wow.
And so I mean, for me, I'm a spreadsheet girl. Like I keep names, you know, blonde hair, blue eyes, who they are, what they are, what their story arc is supposed to be, and then they always surprise you along the way.
Because readers will catch inconsistencies.
They will.
He had blue eyes
Yes.
two books ago, and suddenly he has brown. What's up?
The stripe on his truck was green in one book. Why is it brown in another one? I'm going, who blankety Kate? But obviously some people do.
Right.
With some people it breaks into the narrative and they go, oh, that's wrong. That's not how it is. I can't believe it. And I'm going, I'm just not that kind of person. I'm just going, oh, for goodn's sake.
You don't respond though,
I
right?
did, well,
Oh.
I say, oh, I'm so glad you caught that. We'll change it in future editions.
But as a Southern writer, have you had someone correct your Southernisms?
No.
I've had people send me emails saying, it's not possum, it's opossum.
Oh.
And I live in a town that's about 30 minutes away from Possum Trot, Kentucky. It's possum. It's possum. I will go to my grave defending my right to use the word possum.
Absolutely.
I have to go down Possum Path to get to my house.
See?
No, my daughter and I had dinner with 5 of the actresses from True Blood one wonderful weekend in L.A. And one of them turned to us and said, and how do you like the Southern accents? And Julia and I were, and finally Julia said, they got better. I thought, honey, it would have been better if you just hadn't said anything. Oh my gosh. But some of them were great, some of them were ridiculous. One of the actresses said, but I went and that's exactly how they talk. I thought, then you went to an alternate universe. Because that is not how people talk in the South. Though a lot of times they miss the fact that there is a variety of Southern accents. And you won't hear people talk in Savannah the same way people talk in Possum Trot, Kentucky, or
It's
wherever.
a real place, I swear.
Yeah.
I believe it's next to Monkey's Eyebrow, Kentucky.
We live not too far.
No kidding.
I'm not kidding. That we have T-shirts that say Paducah, Kentucky, halfway between Possum Trot and Monkey's Eyebrow.
One of my journalism
That's why I
professors
will
was
never
from
run out of
Monkey's
material.
But don't you think that they've done a marvelous job considering that they're all like from different countries? The fact that they can even, like Stephen, he can almost sound so, you know, but like way back when you think, oh, that's his voice, and it's just, I just think it's amazing that they can change their accents at all.
I think Stephen Moyer did a fantastic job with a Southern accent being British.
Yeah.
It was a shock to hear him talk in his regular voice.
Did you enjoy converting your books to the series? I mean, I'm sure it was lucrative and all that, but did you enjoy it? Was it a good experience?
Well, I didn't do it, for one thing. You know, let me
Well,
just make that absolutely clear. I had nothing to do with the scripts. Was it fun? Yeah, it's fun to hang around with beautiful people and feel inadequate. Had my picture taken with Alexander Skarsgård. It's like seeing a Great Dane and a, you know, kind of fat old Chihuahua.
You got to stand next to me.
That's true.
It was fun, and I learned a lot. And so it was a big learning curve for me, and I got to have a lot of experiences I never thought I would have. And of course, meeting Alan Ball, who is just, he's a superstar. He's just so smart and wonderful, and gracious and polite. He is nice. But I also felt kind of intellectually intimidated by Alan. The experience with Hallmark was completely different, the experience with NBC has been completely different from that. So I feel like all through the wonderful experiences I've had that I never expected in my whole entire life to achieve, I feel like I've learned a lot, and I've had a lot of different thoughts about an industry that really isn't that different from writing. When you think about it, you're only as good as your last movie, you're only as good as your last book. It's just made my life richer and more interesting, I've got to say, overall, and I hope it continues to be that way.
And if you guys have not watched the trailer for Midnight,
Oh, yeah.
Mother of God,
It is
looks so
really good.
Yeah.
It looks
Honestly,
so
I
good.
think it's
Can't wait.
better than the books, but don't tell anybody. I loved writing the books. They weren't intended to be paranormal, and I got about halfway through the first one. I thought, oh hell, I'm going for it, you know. And I had a great time writing them, and then I've just had such a good time with the cast and crew. Really warm and welcoming, and fun to watch them do their thing. And they're also, oh, we love the books. And I thought, this isn't anything like the books, but that's okay. You can't expect that. And I've seen the first 2 episodes, and they're just great. I'm just so happy about it.
But not like the books.
Well, of course they're not like the books. They can't be. I don't even expect that anymore.
Yeah.
You know, that's just out the window.
Yeah, it was me. That was my question. Was it hard to see your baby being changed?
Not
But
anymore.
I was glad to see Lafayette. You know that he
Yes.
was such
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
favorite
True Blood was
character.
like the
Yeah.
shock troops of experiences because I learned so much. Every now and then there would be a line I had written, and I would go, "Oh, that was my line." And then there would be a person I'd never created, and I'd go, "Who's that?"
Did they ask you questions about your universe, though, to help them flesh out their things?
Sometimes Michelle Forbes, who played the Monad, asked me at a party. She said, "Now, what would a Monad wear?" I said, "Nothing. She'd be naked." And she said, "No, really. If she was a person and she lived among people, what would she wear?" I said, "She wouldn't do it. She'd wear nothing. She'd be naked. She lives in the woods." And so I was less than useful to Michelle, who managed to turn in a wonderful performance because she's a great actress, as a Monad who lives among people and wears suburban clothes and vibrates intensely.
How do you feel that, I mean, how do you feel like he's so amazing? Because, you know, I told you I'm a True Blood addict, Suki Stackhouse addict. But here you created this universe, you've created these 2 characters, these people come together, and there's a marriage has came together just because of what you created. I mean, you know, I think that's just spectacular that all that just came together.
I thought that they should have asked me to be godmother. When Stephen and Anna had their twins, I thought, I'm available.
Kind of amazing that they just came. It's like,
Yeah, I was
It's
very
because you
happy for
created it.
them, and I hope they stay together forever. And it was just lovely to see so many of the True Blood actors go on to bigger and better things. Very gratifying, very gratifying. There was. I mean,
Oh, go ahead. Does Suki still talk
No.
to you?
She's in my rearview mirror now.
Did it kind of stop when True Blood came out? Did it change?
No, I was already 6 into the books by the time the TV series started, and she was fixed in my head, and she had her voice, and I proceeded onward. And I loved Suki to the end, and I wanted to give her a life that she would find happy. That had always been my goal, to make her happy, because she did so well by me. But you know, I'm just a move forward kind of person. I had a career before Suki. I have a career after Suki. It may not look as glamorous or be as lucrative, but I've got it, and it's mine. So I just move forward. Sometimes I haven't read the books in a long time, so sometimes when people ask me questions, I go, I don't remember. I just don't. I mean, I've written like several books since then.
You said you're starting a new series about an alternate America. Because of your experience with how your other series have sold into the entertainment field, are you finding that's affecting your writing in your new series that you're just starting?
No.
Are you thinking, oh, maybe this is why I need to do this, it'll work better in Hollywood?
Hollywood doesn't pay any attention to the book whatsoever, so I don't really think about adapting the book to what Hollywood needs. If they want it, they'll change it. I just think about, my goal is to write the best book I can. That's always my goal. Sometimes I get there, and sometimes I don't. But I always try really hard to write the book of my heart the way I think is best, and hope that readers will connect with it.
Settings. What kind of research and how often would you travel somewhere else for a setting in a book?
My original setting was basically my hometown if you took all the normal people out. If you took out all the people who would find it unacceptable to just wear the coveralls with no shirt to Walmart, that would be Half Moon Hollow.
But that's all over Kentucky. Come on now.
Oh, that's true. And then when I moved books to Alaska, I couldn't go to Alaska. Just in my career, it wasn't to the point where I could travel, across the country to get there. So I read as much as I could and researched. I consulted weather experts and environment experts, and then I still make mistakes. It's just part of it. I try not to, but it happens to everybody. With the new series that's set in Georgia, it comes out in November. I actually had gone to Dahlonega, which is this really lovely place about an hour outside of town, and I'd been there for a book festival and just kind of fell in love with it. And so I just, I might have scared the locals a little bit because I was asking so many questions. And, there are just fascinating bits that you pick up when you visit a place like about this. There's rumored to be a Sasquatch in the area, or multiple Sasquatches, multiple Sasquatches, and they bang rocks. Like when you hear what sounds like rocks banging together in the woods, that's Sasquatches using echolocation to try to find each other. That's the local theory, and I learned that by going there. So it's invaluable to be able to visit the place. So
They bang on trees in Kentucky.
Okay, I hadn't heard that from a local, but so it's just you go when you can.
I think there was a question over here. Yeah.
Of the characters that you've written, who did you find to be the most difficult to write and why?
Oh, for me, the Fae were the most difficult to write because they didn't come from a Judeo-Christian tradition. They were essentially aliens. They didn't have any history of compassion or mercy or anything like that. So I found them very difficult to write indeed. Though I enjoyed it, it was like, the Fae, I get to do them. So it was fun, but it was kind of word by word.
For me, I don't know. I just kind of make it all up. So I have a race of they're demons, but they're slave demons. So they're literally slaves in hell. So it's like double the whammy. And kind of coming up with his name is Oshikiel, and coming up with his background and how can you be a slave in hell, and that was a little difficult, but it's all made up anyway, so.
With my werewolf series, the second book was from the perspective of Maggie, who is a werewolf alpha female, and I don't know if you've noticed from me talking about I'm not exactly an alpha female personality, and it was my first character. It was from a not human perspective. It was from the paranormal creatures perspective, and so that was very difficult to get into that headspace. And then I decided, what if you wouldn't be held responsible for anything you said or did? And I was like, okay, I can do that. And so I read it.
In your past with writing, have you found yourself in a rut? And if so, how did you pull yourself out of it?
I've noticed if I get in a rut, I feel like if I'm in the middle of the book, and if I get in a rut, I feel like that I've taken a wrong turn, and I've done something wrong.
Yeah.
And I have to just step away from it, literally step away, get up, walk away from it, and figure out why is this not working? What have I done wrong? And usually I can figure it out. Sometimes it takes a couple of tries, but
That's exactly the answer I would have given. Yeah.
I find forcing it is a huge mistake. I have the Coke rule where if you get stuck, you have to get up from the computer physically and go drink a Coke. And if that doesn't work, go to the grocery store and do your grocery shopping and just get away from the computer for a set amount of time, because otherwise you start to panic spiral. I'll never work again. I'll never write again. I'm going to lose my contract in my house.
This is the worst book I've ever read.
Yes. They're going to take my minivan. You know. and you can't force it. So you just have to take a break. And that usually works. You know, sometimes you just have to take a break for a day and walk away. So, yeah.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
One of the things that I love about the paranormal genre is that it can open avenues for women that we don't usually get in society to use these powers, and some of the limitations kind of get out of the way. Could you talk a little bit about that, if that is something that works for you?
it works for me 100% because I don't want to spoil anything, but I'm about to. So Charlie, I have so much fun with Charlie. She's the Grim Reaper. But she's always known from book one that she was more. There was something more. There was something she could do that, you know, she was from this other dimension and everything. And I kept hinting at it, but I didn't know what it was. I really didn't know when I first started writing the books. And then it just hit me one day, and I'm like, oh, she's a god, of course. She's a god from another dimension, just kind of like doing time in the Peace Corps, being our Grim Reaper over here, you know, and yeah, I just gave her the ultimate power. And not only she's a god, she's the most powerful god ever to exist. So I'm like, hell yeah.
Go for broke.
Hell yeah. Come straight.
That's what I love about the paranormal genre. Strong women doing strong things, physically and mentally. And nobody thinks that's absurd or weird. Because underneath we're all female alpha werewolves.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's weird.
Well, I always think it's a misnomer that women are not the weaker sex. We are by far and away the stronger sex.
Absolutely.
The teabag in the water thing proves it. It proves it.
Okay, that passed me by.
Okay,
that's not a
There's
comment.
that old saying that the hotter the water, the stronger the tea. We're like tea bags kind of thing. Have you ever heard that? Oh, that's one of my favorite things. What's the actual saying? Does anybody know it?
No one else has ever heard this
You
but
only know how strong they are until you put them in hot water.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
That makes so much more sense.
Sorry, I just thought everybody knew this. So, you know, the tea bag in the water.
My mind was going down a whole nother avenue. I was like, giant chunk of contemporary wisdom. I was on a
That makes sense in my head.
In my universe.
Yeah.
I'm the wisest person around.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
If you could take one characteristic from one of your characters and have it be something that you could do or say or be in your own life, what characteristic from which character would you pick?
Ooh.
Not necessarily a superpower, just
No,
something about
I'd be as brave as Suki. I'm not as brave as she was. Almost all my characters are very brave, and in some respects I'm not, though I've weathered terrible things in my own life, but I'm not the kind of person who can stand up to aggression, verbal aggression very easily.
Charlie has this thing where she can feel the emotions of other people, and so she knows if they're lying to them, if they feel guilty, if they've done something. I would love to know somebody's lying to me. I have this thing, I'm like, are you being completely honest? You know, I don't know if I have trust issues.
Suki would know too.
Yeah, exactly.
I wrote a character in the third werewolf book, and she kind of had this ability to make her home wherever she was and just be so adaptable and just rolled with punches. And I really, that would be something I think that, yeah, I tend to get a little set in my ways sometimes.
I'd actually like immortality.
Well,
I think it would be cool to see where we end up in 500 years or whether we blow ourselves up.
I think I would. No more questions?
No. I just hope she has more adventures. I think she's just fantastic.
Thank you. I kind of picture her as an evil Miley Cyrus.
So Miley Cyrus.
At the time I wrote it, she was still very much the Disney pop star. So this was
Okay, that
before.
explains that.
Yeah. So
Life imitating art.
Yeah, like all of my really mean, like the meanest, darkest thoughts in my heart, which there aren't a lot, but they all come out of Ophelia's
I
mouth.
just love her.
I don't know if you're allowed to say Darynda, but do we get an Ocean Beach series?
That is my goal in life, the spin-off is gonna be Ocean Beach,
Okay.
hopefully.
I want to know Beach personality. So
Yes, I know, I do too, I just wanna get to know her, and she's got all this coolness inside of her, and I can't wait.
I'm so excited.
Same way.
You look like you're about ready to write it right now.
I know, yes, I would love to.
Charlaine, would you ever go back to the Sookie world, not to her, but to that universe with those rules? Because it was a great world.
Thank you.
Great world.
It was so much fun building that world. But the Midnight books are set in that world, but kind of at a remove.
Yeah.
It's a geographically remote place, so most of the situations that apply in the Sookie world don't apply in Midnight. But every now and then there's an allusion to things that happened in the Sookie universe, and of course Quinn is in the books.
I got a little
I know.
excited.
I don't know.
He wasn't in True Blood, so he might make it into Midnight.
Yeah.
If he had been in True Blood, I mean, if that character had been on the screen in True Blood, he would be out. But since Alan, to my regret, did not put him in True Blood, maybe he'll be in Midnight. I'm going, I really want to see that. I'm going, thousands of women want to see Quinn in this series going, this woman really wants to see
So is Alan Ball, is he the...
He is not. No, I have a different producer, and we just get along super well. Yeah. He's a bouncy little fella.
Really?
No one's curious.
Why? I'm a little bit. Can you just talking about the 1930s Dust Ball rocket got anything to do with that?
Oh, the alternate reality?
Yeah.
No, this is a
No.
completely different universe, completely different world, so yeah.
Mine's set in the 1930s too.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Whee!
That's so cool. I'm fascinated with, and I always have been since I was little, fascinated with the Dust Bowl. It freaks me out that it even
that
happened.
Yeah.
And the pictures of this wall of dust coming, and then, people dying of dust pneumonia, and just the whole thing, and then the depression on top of that.
Well,
that whole
you're
era
bringing that up in
fascinates
the
me.
books because you read about it, hear about it, but I've done so much more research on it and didn't realize everything that happened.
Right.
Just because of Rocket and his issues,
Yeah.
because you just fall in love with that character.
Yeah,
He was
yeah,
the
that's
best.
right, because, Rocket's little sister died of dust pneumonia. That tells you that it filters into a lot of things I write. I'm fascinated with it.
Yes, ma'am.
Molly, I really like the narration of your books.
Oh, thank you.
Did you have any role in choosing the narrator?
Amanda Ronconi is the narrator for my audiobooks, and she does a fantastic job. I think she really captures my snarky, quirky voice, and she has amazing comedic timing. And when we first signed the first book, I asked my agent, do you think we can get an audio deal? Because I really loved listening to books when I was driving around. She goes, oh, well, who knows? We'll work on it. And they sent me a 30-second clip of just Amanda doing the bar scene from the first book. And they said, what do you think? And it wasn't ever like, here's another person we could try or anything else. It was just blind, silly luck that we just happened to find the person that was absolutely perfect for it. And I really, every day, just thankful for Amanda Ronconi because she's amazing.
One more question. So, if you could be psychic right now, is there a paranormal, whether animal or universe or anything from folklore that you're dying to kind of get your hands on to write about? Or, when you think about future projects, how does that come about for you? Is it something like, oh, I've always wanted to do something about vampires with a twist, or whatever? But if you're thinking about two projects down the road, is
Ooh, I never think that far down the road. I wish I did. I don't, though.
I have, I always joke about this. I have about 147 projects started. And I'm joking, it's actually probably more than that. But ideas come to me all the time, and not all of them are good ideas, obviously. But yeah, and then I was actually one day just, I don't know what I was doing, but an idea popped into my head. And so that's where my, I really want to do hellhounds for some reason. I have this, I'm very stuck on hellhounds right now. So I'm hoping to do that. And of course, my protagonist is a female who accidentally gets turned into a hellhound, because that happens. But yeah, as far as, that's about it though, as far as a specific type. I do actually want to write vampires someday too, because I love vampires. I love, these people write them so well, but yeah, I want to do that too.
You done that
And
little
zombies.
piece, you done that little piece with the vampire.
Oh, I did a
you've
short
got
story.
to go back there.
Yeah,
Got
I
to
did
go
a short
back
story
there.
with a vampire. I forgot about that.
Reminder.
Yeah.
I won't let her forget, trust me.
Dragons. So much lately has seemed to have come back to, just in my life about dragons. My son's obsessed with them, and he would never read whatever book I wrote. But yeah, I think dragons are somewhere in the next steps for me.
Wow, I don't know. Whatever pops into my head that I find fascinating, and I can find a character. What the great thing about being completely without a contract for a few months, which was super scary. For the first time in like 30 years, I had no contract for anything with anybody. And I was going, ugh. And then I thought, but I can write whatever I want. And that was so much fun to think, I'm just tired of doing this. I'm just going to do something completely different. And it was just so freeing, and it was just a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Yes, ma'am.
I was actually thinking a little bit about something similar to that. You have these books that you have to write that presumably you really enjoy and the readers love, but do you ever have, like, I know some authors do fan fiction and some do like short stories that they have like little previews on their website. Do you ever just write something just completely different just for the heck of it, just because it's something fun that popped into your head?
Nope.
Is it because you don't want to, or you don't have time?
I guess after all these years, because I've been published for 35 years now, when I think writing, I think livelihood. And my livelihood is fun, but it's my livelihood, and so I write thinking to sell all the time. I don't know what it feels like to write just for funsies, and that would probably be really good for me, but I write thinking, who will I sell this to, or, luckily so far what I like to do has found a publisher and an audience.
Because I've asked artists the same question, and a lot of them will do like little side projects on the side just for the heck of it, for a friend, and they'll give them something, or something to stick in the hallway or something like that. So that's kind of what I was wondering if you guys do that.
I don't have time. With my deadline schedule, there's just, I don't sleep. So going and doing something else that, filtering it in.
For me, the only thing, this probably really doesn't apply. Every once in a great while, I will do a short story, but it's usually for a specific project. Somebody has asked for it. It's not just for fun.
Yeah.
I guess for me, this might kind of work in there, is that when I get a new idea, I have to write it down, and that's always fun, because then you're just creating this whole new world.
Yeah.
And I'll take even like a day or two just to create this world and to write it all down, and then I just set it aside. Then I can move on and get on with my life and finish what I'm supposed to be. My deadline went past, and so.
My daughter, they're really emphasizing writing in her school. She's 12, and so she gets a writing prompt every day in English, and she'll come home and tell me about it. And sometimes, if it's a good enough writing prompt, I'll sit down and I'll write 3 or 4 paragraphs. I limit myself to a page just so I'm not too distracted. But sometimes it's just kind of like a vitamin, just to kind of, it's like, what's the plasticity, neuroplasticity in your brain? I think it just helps, just kind of a palate cleanser. And it's always something like a new boy at school shows up, and then something happens. happens, and then you run with it.
It
And
turns into a snake.
well, she had to turn into a demon, and like he attacked her in the cafeteria, and she beheaded him with a tray. And
This is your daughter.
It's my 12-year-old, and so she has started her own book now. And your comment about this is kind of boring. Like I've been so careful about how I've talked to her about her writing because I don't want to suck the joy out of her. But I want her to be good, and I try to give her tips, but I try to make them very positive. And so my writing critique partner Jeanette Batista gave me a list of first-time writers and their mistakes, and I gave them to her. So you might want to look it over and see what you think. She's like, I'm not doing any of these. I'm like, you're actually doing. But we'll talk about self-awareness later. But no, it was really cool though to see your daughter like excited about writing and education and all that stuff.
Okay, and I think we have time for one more question.
Can you talk a little bit about lengths? Because it varies so much in paranormal. Is there an ideal length for a book that you aim for?
Just a book that's long enough to tell the story I have to tell. My conventional mysteries are shorter than my paranormal books because I just have a shorter story to tell. For me, 350 pages is a big book. I know a lot of writers write much longer books, and I say, yay you. But I just seem to be a brief writer.
Mine just always kind of turn out to be about 100,000 words, give or take 5 here and there. But
my goal for first draft is 75,000, and anything else I can add to or take away from. So it's totally arbitrary, but it works.
Okay, I think that's what we have time for. Thank you all for coming.